So why the change? I think it's kind of a terrible thing to feel like you're missing out on something. Somebody is hiding the truth from you. And when I see what's taking place in America today, one of the pivotal things that I read in this thing called the Torah was it hated false scales, an abomination to Adonai. And yet this whole premise of being free suggested that if it feels good, do it, and man can create his own laws and his own lifestyle. From the Stoics, the Essenes, and of course there's Nietzsche and Aristotle and Spinoza. All of these fellas pretty much said, if it feels good, do it. Take advantage of the moment. And Machiavelli in his concept of do it before they do it to you. And we kind of pushed this scripture out. The churches said it was old hat. It was laws. Well, thinking about it, the Greeks did not have a word that really discussed all of the meanings and the teachings of the Torah, so they called it nomos. From my perspective, the minute that you can change the meaning of a word, you can, in fact, change a culture. And in doing so, they just produced a book that nobody likes to talk about are the laws. Because the churches, they live in grace. Do it and you're already forgiven for doing it. And then the school system, the educational program, just began to outlaw it because it was spiritual stuff. And our government, they certainly didn't implement it because it was, in fact, not secular enough, not progressive enough. It had its perimeters, its walls that you couldn't get past. So then this pursuit of freedom, one promising freedom by doing whatever you felt like doing, and the other one saying, no, there is freedom from being in a world of discipline and the instructions. So when I began to pursue what the Torah really meant the character of God. What an interesting concept. And here I want to walk with my God, and he says, here are the covenants that you and I will sign up. If you do this, I'll do this. Well, the burden is suddenly on me because if I want to walk freely, I have to give up some of the things that were getting in my way. And as I began to give these up, all kinds of freedom came my way. First of all, eating correctly. Consuming the fact that not everything was equal and things had frequencies and that we couldn't continue to eat processed foods and ultra-processed foods and chemicals and repair the body. So the aging process really got kicked into place. And when I began to give that up and understand the quantum mechanics of how we're put together and meeting that in the needs of eating, thinking, positive thinking, taking things that were negative out of my body and having it flushed out nightly because of understanding how the brain and the emotions could be cleaned. And these instructions came from this thing called the Torah. But in understanding it, the number of words that really described the Torah was quite amazing. The truth, the word, the tree. Most interesting, the rabbis in this 3rd century said, the tree, we're going to put the roots into the Torah and the branches into the culture so that it would feed us and we would know. How about water? Messiah, light, fire, wisdom, instructions, the way, so many things. The yoke, and this yoke talked about combining purity mentally and physically. And as you take these things and literally seek forgiveness, not only from the people you offended, but from my Messiah. And forgiveness was that you started off every day with a clean body. Think about it. Breath, food, the covenant, perfect law of freedom, written in James, a plumb line, letting you know what is right and what is wrong, a pattern, healing, the seed, All of these depicted what was, in other words, synonyms for the word Torah. Hardly a book of laws. In fact, it's just a lifestyle on how to live with your neighbor, with your government, and who's obligated to do what. In other words, it talks about if your neighbor needs help, even if he's an enemy, you go to him and you seek out a way of helping him solve his problem. And therein lies the discernment. How do you break through that wall where we have been told that it's none of our business? And yet we are built to solve problems. And so we need to come up with a way of learning the importance of doing that and the benefits of helping our fellow man. And so that comes into play with our health issues. Pointing out to people that there is a solution. But right now, we need to know how to do that, and we need to know the solutions that are there. And it's with that when my son got me to the top of that mountain, and he wanted me to see what he saw, I took a whole different look at the Ute Canyon Valley. I saw it from his perspective, and it was just gorgeous. Well, that's true with me. I experienced this. I lived it. I'm following people that have been nothing but great to me. I want you to see the freedom physically and emotionally and spiritually and financially, how if you are obedient to these instructions, that you become free, which is entirely different what we're taught.